Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Building the Black Educator Pipeline podcast. I am your host, Shayna Terrell, educator activist dedicated to the lifelong struggle of freedom and liberation for my people. Shout out to all my co-conspirators back to listen for another week. Today's show theme is Building the Black Educator Pipeline and Future Black Educators. I am so happy because we have a special treat today. We will be listening to the voices of future Black educators. They are joining us today to talk about their Freedom Schools experience and their excitement about leading the next generation. So I would love to welcome to the show adorned, I don't know if I call it self-proclaimed, but we gave him this name, our Harambe King, okay? Brother Christian Sabree, and then our sister Maleah Thomas-Thornton. Both of them will be joining us today. Welcome, y'all.
Hello.
Hi.
Listen, we are super pumped. Y'all know I'm super pumped to have y'all here. But I would love for the folks to know why I'm super pumped. So we'll start with you, Christian. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Share with us about your work and what you have coming up for the fall and who you are. Just who is Christian?
Sure. Thank you, Sister Shayna, as always. Love the intro. Love your energy, as always. My name is Christian Sabree. I am currently a senior SLA here at Prep Elementary. I have been doing Freedom Schools for 4 years now, and I absolutely love it. I am a South Philly native. Shout out to all my people from South Philly.
Shout
the
out.
P, you know what's up. Whoop, whoop. People don't give us enough love, but we need that love. I have loved education since the beginning. It wasn't where I thought I was going to end up, but one summer during college changed my life, and then Freedom Schools came the next, and I've loved it ever since. Self-proclaimed Harambe King is kind of a stretch because Suleiman herself kind of stamped that, so it kind of got to my head from there, and then you went and bolted on top of that. So Harambe King,
I'm stamping it, Brother Christian. I'm stamping it. You are, at least at the Center for Black Educator Development, you are our Harambe King. So that's stamped. We wait for the next.
And that's all I need. That's all I need.
Wait for the next brothers to come and snatch the crown. Where you at? Brother Christian said, "Come get it."
By all means, please.
Yes.
Please come get it.
Sister Maleah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Maleah Thomas-Thornton. Like she said, I am a senior SLA at the Tanner Duckery site. This is my third year at FSLA. I'm a recent graduate from the illustrious Howard University. Thank you very much. I haven't, unlike Christian, I haven't always thought I was going to end up in education. I haven't always liked education. I'm very creative arts, and I think I want to stay on that path, but just with little people. So I feel like this is just like one of those stepping stones for me. Like, of course, I always got love for the center, always got love for the schools, but I think I want to be more on the artsy side, but still with young people. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yes. And Maleah, in the fall, you have applied to do what?
Oh, be an art teacher. Yeah, we love that.
Yes. And Brother Christian, you are currently doing what?
I am currently a learning support teacher for the second grade, and I'll be going into my second year of being a learning support teacher here at Prep.
Listen, excited. So both of you touched on it a little bit, but I would love for you guys to dig in so our folks listening can hear what inspired you to want to be an educator. So I know you had these, like, Christian, you mentioned something like kind of life-changing happened that summer, and Maleah, you wanted to be creative, but you're still you applied to be an art teacher. Like, amazing, right? So could both of you tell us what kind of inspired you to want to be an educator? Maleah, I can start with you.
Okay, so I always pay homage to my grandpa. Rest in peace, grandpa. But he was just like very in the community. He was a very like community based kind of guy. And I think when I was like 11 or 12, he like started coming to pick me up, and I would just be rocking with him all day. And it was just something that he was so passionate about, and I picked up the passion from him. So it was always just, oh, we in the community. We're going to go kick it with the kids today, Lily. Like, that was just his thing. And I just picked it up from him. But on the artsy side, I've always been a creative. So it was just like, no brainer. It goes hand in hand. There aren't a lot of creative outlets when it comes to the school district at all. I remember when I was in elementary school, they were talking about cutting art altogether. And it was just like, this is kind of not the one thing that I came here to do, but like, that's something that I enjoy doing. And if I'm going to be here for 8 hours a day, y'all better let me at least get 1 hour in. So just making sure that everybody has an outlet to know that being creative is a pathway to get to success, I think is something that's very important for me.
Dope. Brother Christian, tell us about what inspired you to want to become an educator.
So what inspired me to want to become an educator was, like I said, it was during college. So I originally went to Westchester University trying to become a bio major. I wanted to do veterinary work and things of that nature. It wasn't, I was doing the classes. It wasn't really, like, I wasn't really feeling it the way I was before. I wasn't, like, my passion was kind of dying out. And my friend told me, like, hey, like, how about you come teach with me out in Delaware? And I went and did that for a summer. And it was just like watching kids just like light up and just like seeing their minds work and like seeing like when they're getting things before they, like things that they weren't understanding during school that they were understanding now. And they're like, them like, and realizing what I was doing for them, providing a black face, like a person that looks like them, sounds like them, comes from a similar background. And they're just like we don't have this during school. And I realized like so many kids don't have that. And I wanted to be like by someone who inspires me here, Ikena Ayanwu. He's like, be the person be the person you wanted someone to be for you. And it's just like I was in a group message with him and my friend. I was like, I want to be an educator. And he kind of got me in contact with freedom schools. And from there, it was like history was written. I was shown to Sister Shayna and just like all the wonderful people of Philadelphia Freedom Schools. And it was just like, these were the people I was waiting for. These are like the people, the beings that I need to be around to like bolster myself, because it's not about just like a static thing. Like it's not just about like, oh, I need to teach kids or I need to like empower somebody. It's like it's such a holistic thing. I got a sister on here talking about how she wants to do art, and it's not necessarily like a big education. That's important. Babies need a holistic approach to something, because it's just like if you're just like let's just hit them with the math, the reading, the sciences and things like that. That's good, but it's like they're human, they're dynamic, they are growing, and if we don't appreciate that from all angles, if we're not accepting that, if we're not nurturing that, they'll never reach their full potential. So that's what it was for me. I want kids to reach their full potential and like just like no, they are supported, they are seen, they are heard, and it's like we are here to bring joy and like reach their greatest heights. Be a bridge and like be a bridge and also help make a bridge is my thing.
Brother Christian, listen, so what you said, right? If you read my shirt, the shirt I have on today is become the teacher that you wish you had, which is a major thing with us here at the center. And I love that you said that we were the people that you were waiting on, but we were waiting on you, Brother Christian. We were waiting on you, Sister Maleah. If you build it, they will come. And that is what we have been trying to do. We have been waiting on you all, the next generation of future Black teachers, to lead our young ones, to be better people in this great nation. And Sister Maleah, you brought us some excellent points about education, because I think a lot of times when people are thinking about becoming a teacher, they don't understand how to intertwine that into their personal passion. People very much think about like, I ain't teaching no reading, I don't want to teach no math. And it's like, but you don't have to teach reading or math to be a teacher. If your passion is art, you can do art. My husband is a teacher. His passion was sports. He's a physical education teacher. There are plenty of people that I've met along the way whose passion is history. They go and they study African American studies or Black studies or Africana studies, and they become history teachers. So you bring up a great point about, you don't have to like just the basic subjects of reading or math. So many ways that you can intertwine your passion with becoming a teacher. So we have heard both of you talk about how many years that you've actually been servant leader apprentices at the Center for Black Educator Development. And the reason why I want to give you both a major shout out, because you both have supported the center with some transitional times. Christian, you've been with us since day one. Okay, you are day one, our very first Freedom School launch and Freedom School site. You have been with us as an SLA. And Maleah, you came to us as a day one virtual. Okay, the pandemic times when we didn't know how we were going to transition. We came up with this bright idea to have virtual freedom schools. And you were one of our very first virtual SLAs. So the love and the support that you guys have shown the center has been amazing. We appreciate you for that. But I would love for folks to hear about how has this experience prepared you for being a future Black educator?
So I think one thing about me, I always have been very conscious of the people around me and the personalities around me. So growing up, I always would take note, oh, I don't have a Black teacher this year, or I haven't, like my first Black teacher, I don't think I had until I was in 6th grade. And then until that, from 6th grade up until I think I had another Black teacher just sparingly in the 11th grade. So I always knew that there were not a lot of Black teachers in the system. And I think coming to the center, it was just like seeing how many people there are that are passionate about the cause and about just being in the classroom with with Black students. It was just something that it really spoke to me. So in the midst of all of that, being at Howard, I went through a lot of different classes and courses that were geared toward just understanding Black people and the Black community as a whole. And it just continued to echo, like, these need us, like they need to see us in a classroom, like that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I remember I sat in a Black psychology class and we just talked about just the statistics of coming through the school system and how much I think that it would change if there were more Black people inside of the classrooms. And then I came back to the center for the summertime and it was just like, this is where I need to be. Like, it just kept echoing. Like, I couldn't get away from, you need to be in the classroom. Like, there's a classroom that needs you somewhere, or someone that looks like you somewhere. So yeah, that's why I'm coming back year after year, because it's just like something, like I said, it's like an echoing, like a calling. Like, I feel like I need to be here.
Girl, that's right. Don't be out here running from your purpose. Don't run from it. They kept showing it to you. Don't run from your purpose. Brother Christian, we would love to hear from you about how your experience as SLA has prepared you to become an educator.
It's prepared me greatly. The fact that I was able to do this 2 years prior to me actually being an educator as a learning support teacher allowed me to just like have, I think, great classroom management skills for students, especially like going from a place of like, I wasn't teaching kids on a daily basis before this. Like, I wasn't an education major when I went to Westchester University. Like, I'm totally out of my depth, but it's like by having those things to engage kids with chants and cheers and just like having different sorts of just like attention getters, those things help kids, and kids love those types of things. They're doing it on their own. And it's just like when you see those types of things, like just like being articulated between not only you and the student, but students amongst themselves, building that community, building like that classroom family, that helps education blossom, because it's just like kids, they're self-conscious. They're worried about each other and they don't want to seem ostracized. So it's just like they want to kind of like nitpick with each other sometimes. But it's like when you are able to kind of just like hone that in, tie that in with like some singular thing being yourself and like having chants and cheers, something they can all get excited about as like one group, it helps just like skyrocket their drive to want to do something. They're just like, Mr. Sabree, are we going to do a chant when we get to recess? Well, we'll see if we can get a chant out, but we first got to get in line. So it's just like, it incentivizes just the way they want to engage with education, but also with me, which like is a help me, help you, help us situation. So all in all, it, like I said before, it's not about the static of just like, I know this and I know that I could give this to somebody, but it's like, are they understanding? Are they comprehending this? Are they receiving this from me because I'm saying it, or are they receiving this because they truly understand? Because like, if they just think I'm just standing over them, like I'm the teacher, you're the student. You need to do as I say. That's not how education works. It's not. There are grown adults that you be like, I need you to do this. If you stand over people in such a manner, that's not going to allow for any sort of progress. But when you're standing beside them and it's like, we're going to do this together, we're doing this all as a whole group, students are far more engaged. That's what we're servant leaders. We're not just like, it's not like, oh, I'm just a hero. Like, I'm just a champion, like, for you, like, and I stand here alone. We stand here together. Like, we are side by side. It's not me before you.
Yes. Brother Christian, that was beautifully articulated. And it's beautifully articulated in the space of education and how we should be showing up as servants, as servant leaders. And boy, this is a whole nother topic. We have a whole nother podcast on the hero complex that people get into education with, and not understanding what it really means to work side by side with children, and that we are in a community with children and not above. And we're not here to save anyone. We're here to support and lift up as a community. So I love that you pointed that out. Now, y'all, we've had some phenomenal times in Freedom Schools. Like, when I go back into my Rolodex of thoughts and memories and like things that have happened, and I've been in Freedom Schools since I was 16. So over 20 years. So when I go back to the thoughts and the memories of things, I'm like, wow. But I would love to hear about what has been your most impactful experience at Freedom School. Even if you want to tell us about your best moment at Freedom Schools, I think is so great for people to hear that, because it puts them further in touch with what we are experiencing in this Freedom School movement. Maleah, you can tell us.
Most impactful moment or best moment? I'm trying to think. I've had a lot. I've had a lot of memorable moments. I don't know if I could rank them and say that I've had a best. I want to.
That's a good thing. That's a great thing.
Very true.
I think my best moment, or one of my favorite things, is always like that point when you know you have an understanding with a scholar, and like there's like that connection. Like, all right, this is my dog. Like, I know no matter what happened, I know that little one right there, that's me. So like working in the after school program this past fall, I had a few young ladies that would even though they weren't my scholars. They actually not belonged to, but they were in the class of another SLA. But whenever I saw them, whenever they was having a little issue, it was like, all right, go talk to Miss Lee. Miss Lee got you. And that's all I need to know. They know that I got them. We good. So it's just like just having that connection with certain scholars. I would aim to have it with all of them, but we know that's a big mission. But just having that connection with certain scholars is definitely one of my favorite, like my most favorite things. Like, cause I know I can always get one of them, and they just gonna be my road dog for the whole time that I got them.
I love that. Yes, Brother Christian, any memorable or impactful moments for you that you want to share?
I definitely can't rank them either. I feel like that's such a tight box to try to put things in. But I feel like definitely it's just that moment where scholars are invested as much as we are, and you see it and it comes out, and just like all the things they're doing, just like seeing them at Harambe, like going as hard as they can for the theme song, or going hard for the chants, like stepping out, giving recognition, like saying things at libations, like those types of things, like make me excited, because it's like they're mirroring you, because this is a positive thing that they've associated with this in the morning, and it's just like they're like, oh, Brother Christian did it, or I'm going to do it next, or like this sister did it, I want to do it next too, and it's just like that just like hand over foot of positivity just like brings me so much joy every day. Like every time 8:30 comes, like every day I'm just like, oh yes, the scholars are going to do their thing. They're going to shine bright like they always are going to. And it's just like it makes me so hyped. And I just like emphasize that to all the SLAs and like the JSLs, that I'm just like, Harambe is not about us, but it's like what we bring for the kids. So it's like the more you bring, the kids are going to match you. So it's like, if you're just like, I'm shy, I'm timid, it's like, remember, this is for the kids. So it's like they're scared too. They don't know you. Like they're just like, who is this person? Like, I don't know. But if they see you jump in for boom chicka boom or something like that, then they're just like, oh, this person is nice. Like they know the chance. Like I want to be with these people. Like I want to, like, they gravitate towards you in that moment. And it's just like seeing those connections being built, like seeing their comfortability come, like seeing their personality shine, like them breaking out of like those shells is like, that's what it is for me. Just like them being their most truest self, like here at Freedom Schools, because sometimes at school that can be difficult, you know? And it's just like, we help them like peel back some of those layers to like, for them to be who they truly are.
Yes, and that just brings in the joy aspect and how radical that is for Black children. I think a lot of times we see our young people not being able to experience joy in education, or folks feeling like we couldn't do this with them, like they'll be riled up, how are they going to get back focused? But understand that that's like a focusing point for it, like, and it's just wonderful to hear you describe what Harambe is to you and how that this experience has been most impactful for you. But it also segues into another topic that I want to talk about, because number one, both of you, me, fresh out of college, but also had a high school experience or had an in-school K-12 experience, not too far removed. Christian, you're currently working in a school right now. I would love to talk to you guys about the differences between traditional public school and freedom schools, because I too, right? I've been in freedom schools, like I said, over 20 years, but then I've worked in a K-12 space for 13 years. And it's stark differences in how I had to behave within a traditional setting and what I was very used to doing within a freedom school. Like my spirit for a long time was just like at odds. Like I would be in a traditional school and be like, oh my God, this is just not the freedom school way. And that's not talking about to kids, like saying this in adults, like this is just not the freedom school way. Like, why are we treating babies like this? One of the things, Christian, you bring up a great point. I was always about the joy, right? Harambe Queen, if you will, back in the day, right? Like I was on it. So when I would come and ask adults to like sing and chant with me, oh, I'm not doing that. Well, why not? Like the kids would enjoy it. Well, I'm just not into that. It's not about what you into. Will this inspire the kids? And a lot of times we know low key, kids love seeing the most quietest, shyest, nerdiest teacher do the chants, right? Because they're like, oh, look at this so-and-so. It makes you a person. It actually makes you human. And it makes you a part of community. But I would love to hear from you guys some thoughts on how freedom schools is different from a traditional public school. And what can traditional public schools learn from a freedom schools experience? Christian, you could go first. You're in a traditional public school right now. It's a charter, but still very similar to traditional education.
Very true. I feel like that when it comes to things, I just feel like as schools like and education just going on, it's just become so like statistic oriented, and it's not about like how the kids feel a lot, and it's about like what are these results producing and how can we like make them produce better results. And just, oh, this person's at this level and we need them to be here. And how can we get this person? How can we get this person from A to B? And they think it's just all about the education. How can we teach them different? How can we like make this approach change? But it's also about the fact that it's like, hey, did this kid even have breakfast this morning? Did this child even come here in a happy state of mind? Like they came in here upset, and now you're kind of like trying to tell them, hey, let's start this morning work. And that isn't going to be great for that scholar. Like that's not going to put them in a place where it's just like they're going to produce the best results. But on the other hand, with freedom schools, it's just like kids can come in, they may be a little tired, they may like seem down a little bit. 8:30 comes and it's just like it's Thursday and Harambe, and it's like they're getting excited. They're getting excited. Like the hype is building up. Like you can feel that in the air, and you can just see them like their whole mood change. Like you can see like when they start interacting with their other peers and like the JSLs and the SLAs, like they see like how they're getting hype and they're seeing like everybody else get hype. And it's like you can't stay sad in a space like that for long. You can't see kids happy and not become happy yourself. Truly, I'm grinning from ear to ear every day at Harambe, because like these kids, even if I wanted to be just like, all right, it's kind of cold, like I'm not really feeling the day. Like they as soon as they get into their little act of Harambe, it's just like, all right, we're here now, y'all. Like let's get it. Like Let's get popping. Let's be loud. Let's be excited. Let's start our day right. Because if you're not going to start off on the right foot, then how do you expect to walk down a path of just success? And it's just like these students are coming in here. Oh, I don't want to be at school. I want to be home. I want to play Xbox. I don't really know nobody here. My friend's not here and stuff like that. Friends, there are multiple other people we can become friends with. It is time for us to be happy. It is time for us to get excited for a day loaded with fun education and to be free and for you to just be who you are. And sometimes during school, it can't be like that. There's like more stipulations and regulations for things that need to be done. Like sometimes that attention can't be given because of certain objectives that need to be reached. But at Freedom Schools, it's like, hey, before we even get there, we're addressing a precept that's going to allow us to get further down the road that sometimes I feel like, in general, just like with charter schools, public schools, that are not always addressed because kids come in here and it's just like immediately they're met with music, they're met with breakfast, they are met with smiling faces. People are happy to see them. It's like, good morning, friend. How are you feeling this morning? Like people are just like all in their space, like trying to provide them with that love, that joy, that those things that all humans need. Because like scholars is people too. Like I feel like sometimes people forget that like kids are people too, and they're like they have lives, they understand. Like don't knock what a child knows, because it's like they know, even if they don't understand it to the nitty grittiness that an adult does, a child nevertheless feels that. And you can't sit here like you can't deny it. You can't deny this child's story. So it's just like Freedom School just addresses things from a completely different angle that allows for kids to just be like, wow, Brother Christian really cares. Like he cared that I came in here and that I wasn't happy today. And he came and talked to me. Kids run up to me every morning and give me a hug. I say a certain friend's name, Ethan, high five me. Full speed running up down them steps, coming to that door to high five me. Like he could have had a horrible day, but that reset his whole day. And it's like, sometimes you can't have that during a normal school year, you know?
Brother Christian, thank you for that. Creating intentional spaces of joy and intentional spaces of love for Black children. I'm hearing us say that we feel like that's not created in our traditional public schools. And you are probably exactly right. I mean, I know that you're right because I've had the very same experience of things that I would naturally do in the Freedom School space. But the one thing you're also pointing out that Harambe and morning time addresses is if you have a friend that comes in and is not having such a good day, that breakfast in that Harambe space allows time for that child to reset. They don't have to jump right in to academics. They don't have to jump right into whatever the objective is. They get time to actually reset, because I'm thinking about spaces in Harambe where we have friends who may not fully participate, right? Like I might have came in late, but I'm eating my breakfast and I'm on the side, bopping my head to a little chant. But you know what I mean? I'm getting myself acclimated. I'm getting myself in the rhythm of what needs to occur or what needs to go on, right? Like, but that space and that time before we jump straight into academic, before we jump straight into like, these are the expectations of what I expect from you, to be quiet and sit down and be still for 8 hours throughout that day. Harambe provides that space and time for kids to reacclimate it and get readjusted. But the other thing, right? And this is strange, right? This was foreign to me too. How you say kids are met and greeted with smiles and hellos and how are yous. That's naturally who I am because I came from a Freedom School space. When I got into K-12 space, and I came into the K-12 space as a disciplinarian. And for me, just because I'm a disciplinarian doesn't mean I can't be warm and kind to students. So I remember teachers telling me, like, you're too nice to them. I'm like, so I'm not supposed to be nice to kids? I'm really confused about that concept, right? Like, they're not supposed to see you as the person that, that they can laugh with. Why not? I mean, didn't your parents laugh with you even though they were the same person that holds you accountable? I'm confused. Like, they're human. They're people. I'm human. Very, very confusing, right? On the expectation of how you're supposed to be and who you're supposed to be in schools. And interestingly enough, right, this is the treatment that our Black children get, right? Poor Black children need to be treated like they're inside of prisons and jails, and nobody should smile at you and hug you. And you don't know anything. You're too far behind. We don't have time to hug you and smile. You need to read this book. You need to learn. Even if I'm not having a good day, but for some reason for you, as long as I pick up that book and read, somehow it's going to turn my day around. But again, the psyche behind that, and how we treat young people and how we treat Black people is interesting. So I love that you point out those differences that you experience in an actual traditional school. Maleah, I would love to hear from you too as well. How do you think freedom schools differs from traditional public schools, and what can schools learn from a freedom school experience?
I think that Brother Christian touched on a lot of the things that I was going to touch on. I think that K-12 environments are very, like you said, they're very their operations are very statistical, and like we have to meet these quotas, and our kids need to be performing at this rate or whatever the case may be. When you come to freedom school, everything is kind of like we want to be able to create that community. So I feel like there is some kind of connection between ourselves and our scholars' families, ourselves and just the neighborhood that we're in. So there's a lot of just connection, just making sure that the kid is being helped from all angles.
Yes,
You know
that
what
means
I'm
you're a part
saying?
of a village.
Like,
We are a part of a village.
right.
It takes a
So
village.
yeah, and I just think like
Yes.
right, it definitely
Yes,
does.
it's beyond a
Yep,
job.
and so I think that is one thing that I think K-12 can learn from freedom school, just making sure that you have those connections and making sure that there's a level of understanding when it comes to your scholars. Like, there's just that, like, kind of, I'm losing my
It's
words right
okay.
now. There's just that kind of,
Yeah, go ahead.
just making sure that you understand your scholar basically. Like you said, your scholar may come in and they're not having the best day today. Why is that? There's not any push for them to be doing this thing at this one time. Their energy is very valuable to this space. So you're coming in here and you're telling them that they need to be doing X, Y, and Z instead of catering to what they're needing right now. Like Brother Christian said, it could be they didn't eat breakfast this morning. Kids are very temperamental. Anything can set them
Facts.
off. So you telling them go read a book is not catering to what they're needing right now. It may be, oh, well, my mom, she didn't tell me she loved me before I got out the car. It could be something very small. And just you making sure that you're catering to their feelings and making sure that their energy is adjusted before they go into this space, before they need to open up their brains, fix their heart.
Oh,
Make sure that you know what's really going on at their home. And like I said, come into that community. Mom may have dropped the ball this morning, but if you pick it up, they can keep going on with their day. Like, I just think that the school district is very they're kind of robotic in their operation. Everything is very cold when it comes to the school district, but you do have those outliers. But for the most part, the system as a whole, I think, is just very cold. I think that they're just not connected to the Black
I
community
love
as a
what you
whole.
said about open up their hearts before you open up their brains. I think that, especially when you're dealing with our younger friends, with all our kids, that's so important. But just open up their hearts before you open up their brains. I'm going to start to like use that phrase. I do. I really love
Use it on
that.
a shirt.
I think that's super, super dope. I know, right? Open the heart before you
Next
open
shirt.
up the brain. Okay. The
Put it
next
on the
freedom
t-shirt.
school shirt.
Put it on the t-shirt.
Yes,
Yes,
we are
sir.
on it. We are on it. Yes. I think also what I want to highlight, because I think people can hear us talking in this podcast, right? And people can hear us, and what they'll be saying is like, that sounds all good and great, just love up on the kids. But when do the learning happen? So what's one thing I do, because that's what people will take from this, right? Because again, as if
What was
kids are
learning?
going to school every day, yes, we're learning, have all the loving going on. Where's the learning? But when I really think about this, Maleah makes a great point, because kids go into schools every day where it's cold and no learning or loving is happening. Neither. It's happening in spaces. But what I would love to point about Freedom Schools Literacy Academy is like, we're an actual teacher apprenticeship program. So both of you have experienced actual learning gains with your students, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I would love y'all to speak a little bit about the curriculum that you guys have done and what kind of outcomes you've actually experienced with actual scholars over the summer. I can, Sister Maleah, I'll throw it back to you real quick. What? Yes.
Okay. So one thing, I think that our work is very intentional. The way that we move through our curriculum is very intentional, especially aiming towards our Black and brown students. So even when it comes down to like something as small as a read aloud, a scholar seeing a picture of a Black person inside of a book is huge. When you go to a regular school, there are, not saying that they don't have black I guess black geared books or like that isn't being represented, but I feel like here we're very intentional in making sure that everything that they see is, oh, this could be you, or representational of who they are as people, and who we are as people. So just making sure that that connection is there, but then also, like you said, we are making sure that our kids are being catered to on an individual level and not as a whole
Yep.
program. I think that that's something that's very important to our kids, because we could easily operate as a K-12 environment and stick all the kids in one class because that's where they're supposed to be by standards. But taking each student individually and making sure that, oh, this is where he is, this is the goal that he and his parent wants him to be at, or whatever the case may be, or where we feel like even if he just moves up one level, that's progress. We're not going to bash him because he should be at some standardized level, or this is where he's expected to be. As long as he's making progress, then that is something that we should be praising. And I think that's another thing. We praise our scholars for all the progression that they're making, not just the big milestones, the little steps that come in between too. So I think that our curriculum is just very nurturing, I think is the word that I'm looking for.
Love
to our
that.
scholars.
And Brother Christian, you've been with us literally for 4 years. This is your first year not in an actual classroom with scholars. Like, it's your first year being it is, I know, but you're in administration and you are, again, being an example to those future SLAs who are coming. That's another part of our program, development and growth, right? Brother Christian is going to be in the classroom. We would like him to be in the classroom forever, but we have to give Brother Christian other leadership opportunities and skills. But you've been with us, again, you've had 3 years with scholars. We'd love to hear about some of your curriculum experiences and student outcomes that you've been able to get with our scholars.
I just want to start by saying that it's such a great opportunity to be able to just stay at the same site and just like with a lot of the same kids. Like, knowing I started this basically 4 years ago, and now seeing scholars now that are with Philadelphia Freedom Schools now in another program at this school, and it's like I still have that connection, and just like seeing how they're flourishing and just like seeing what they're doing, like brings me such great joy. They're just like, Brother Christian, like you're back, It was like we want to come back, and it's just like that's so fantastic to have because they loved what they were doing. They loved read aloud. They loved being able to engage and have those moments where it was like those interpersonal moments where it was like it wasn't a big class. They can really like ask those questions. We can dive deep. We can work on CVC words. We can work on sight words. Like we're having Robin reading. We're reading like aloud to each other, and they're like able to see those things. And it's just like they're pushing each other because like we've created that environment. They're pushing each other when they're reading. It's like they're following along all in their books with their fingers, and it's just like someone's getting tripped up on a word. Friend over next to them may whisper it to them or like try to help them sound it out. Like you're watching them use the same skills you're using in front of them for each other. And that was great. When the pandemic hit us and we were just like, what is Freedom School going to do? We were online doing this. And it was just like, I was like, I don't know what we're going to do. I was scared. I was like, is my teaching skills going to convey via online? I was like, I might make a fool of myself. And it was just like, kids never failed to support me in the fact that it's like, they are bright. They were ready. They were ready to be on Zoom and learn. So much to the fact that we had to go back and be like, hey, the kids are kind of like really blowing through these books. Like we need to figure out how we're going to like bolster this curriculum. We were meeting scholars. Like it wasn't just about like me and other SLAs were in with our LC and we're like, hey, these students are bright. And we don't just want them to succeed here. We want them to exceed. And we need to challenge them. How can we challenge them? And we, as SLAs, were giving back the opportunity that they were like, as a group, figure out how we can challenge these kids with this curriculum. How can we break this apart? How can we scaffold this? How can we expand upon this to make kids' minds work harder and just like take this and just take it to another level? Because it's not just about like them taking that knowledge and just like having it. It's about them taking that knowledge and like making it a tool. It's about getting them preparedness. It's not about one singular tool. We're giving them a bag of tools that they can have. So it's just like, aside from this, it's just like, okay, cool. Now we understand sight words and things like that, or like breaking things apart. But it's just like, what does this story mean? Let's get into the meaning of these stories. Like, what are these characters doing? What would you do in this story? Like, let's write about that. Let's make something creative from this, you know? And it's just like, those types of things deepen their learning. And it's just like, they remember those types of things. Like they keep those projects. Like no mirrors in my Nana's house. Those kids still have those drawings and like painting and stuff like that. I still have mine. It hangs up in my house. Like, it's just like, this is things that I've created with kids that is just like, these are things that like someone's going to ask them about. And it's like, they'll be able to give you like a full blown articulated answer. And you're just like, wow, and you're a rising first grader? Yeah, they're a rising first grader. And they're nothing to be played with. Like they are unstoppable when put in the proper place. And just like being able to help foster their education is just unbelievable. You know, it's like, it's one of those opportunities like you're able to dive into and never go back from. And it's like, I would never want to go back from.
I love that. Listen, this is why I had to ask that question, because people out there listening, we're not just only loving on kids, okay? They're learning. They're learning as well. And we are definitely training our young people to be. Yes, Christian. You better tell the people. You better tell the people what they need. Yes.
The love comes first.
And I love what you said
about to learn.
Yes. Great point. I also love how you said we're not teaching our kids just to succeed. We're teaching them to exceed. I think that is, I don't think I've heard that phrase, but when I heard it, it resonated with me. Like, of course, everybody's like, we want our kids to be successful. Christians like, nah, we don't want them to just be successful. We want them to exceed whatever milestone or goal that was set for them. And that's powerful, brother. That's super powerful. So 2 things. Listen, love to learn, okay? Learn to love and not just succeed. We want our scholars to exceed. But both of you, again, I know I'm like looking at both of you and I'm like, if I had a little scholar, I would want my scholar to be in either one of your classes, right? I would want my scholar to have Black teachers like Christian, Black teacher like Maleah. I would want that for my scholar. In your K-12 experience, Maleah, have you had any Black teachers?
I had two. I've had two Black teachers in my K-12 experience.
And what impact would you say having those Black teachers had on you?
So actually, my first Black teacher that I've ever had was in 6th grade. Her name was Miss Johnson. She is kind of like a mentor to me now. So she's always emailing me, Maleah, how are you? When I told her that I had connected with the center, she's like, oh, you're going to be a teacher. I'm so proud of you. So she's just somebody that has followed me since I think I was 11 when I was in the 6th grade. So 11, now I'm 22. That's a decade plus a year. She's been just making sure, always checking in, making sure that I'm okay. Like, any point in time where I felt like I needed something academically, I could always, I'm going to email Ms. Johnson because this is not sitting right with me, or I know she has the answer to this, or whatever the case may be. But in that experience, when I was actually in her class in the 6th grade, I always just felt like I was with like an auntie or something. And that's something that I always enjoyed about knowing that I think Black teachers with Black students, there's a different kind of expectation. There's a different kind of standard that meets, because sometimes it's just like you need that black motherly hand to tell you, you acting crazy right now. Get it together. Tighten up. Like you sometimes you need that. And going to Miss Johnson class, I knew I was gonna get that, but I also knew that it was gonna be at the same time, it was coming out of her having my best interest at heart. I knew that she wanted me to be everything that I could be. And so it just was a very great experience. And like I said, it still is a very great experience because if I need something right now and Miss Johnson can give it to me, she's going to give it to me. So it just was a very great experience having that, and definitely at a younger age, because even going through high school, it was just like, oh well, I know I can call on Miss Johnson because Miss Johnson's going to have my
Listen, shout
bag.
out to Miss Johnson. Christian, have you had any black teachers during your K-12 experience?
I have, yes, and they 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 were very splashed out. But my very first black teacher was in fourth grade, and I remember it vividly. This is actually kind of a funny story. So I had went from a Catholic school to a charter school, and it was my first day in fourth grade. I was super scared. Like I had never in a Catholic school, majority of the time it's just like being African American. You're probably usually the only black person there or a person of color there. So then going to a charter school, I was surrounded by more people of color, and it was like I was like, oh my God, I was kind of overwhelmed. And I remember like the day seeming like a blur. But my fourth grade teacher, Ms. Bullard, she was like, how was your first day? And I was standing in front of my mother at the front desk. And I looked Ms. Bullard directly in her eyes and I said, well, I never had a black teacher before. And they all laughed, but I was so serious because it was just like, that was different for me. The only black woman who ever stood in front of me and told me what to do was my mother or my grandmom or like one of my aunts. So it was just like having a black woman that wasn't of any blood relation to me. We just share the same color skin. Like she just a sister out here teaching. It was something different for me. Like I never experienced that. And it was like, wow, like before this was just a whole bunch of like white women, not to be rude, but that were teaching me. Like no one that looked like me or even like shared similarities with me was teaching me. And like I just felt like it really changed my thought process just about like education and like how I felt about like school and stuff like that. And because aside from that, I was having black teachers, but they weren't in a core teacher role. Maybe they were like my gym teacher or things of that nature. But like having a teacher that was like with me 8 hours out of a day, just sitting there like teaching me math, teaching me things about grammar, teaching me things about science and all those types of things, which was like, wow, like this is just like a whole different experience. She just cared for us differently. She spoke to us differently. It just felt different in that classroom. And it's like, and my little brain couldn't get out. Like, why does this feel so different? Like, why does this feel not like what I've had in school before? And I had to realize that it's just like her being black and me being a black student just created a different dynamic between us that allowed a different sort of connection. And I just realized that it was like how impactful, like even at that young age, like how impactful for that was for me. Because it's just like, even now I just think about like all the times it's just like, wow, she was my first black teacher. And it's just like, only the answers and God knows where she is now. But like, I'm just forever grateful for her being like the very first black teacher I ever had, because it's just like, it really just changed a lot of my thoughts just like about school. I just went to school to learn, but now it's like school became a place of joy for me. It became like I can't wait to get to class. Like I can't wait to go see Miss Bullard and like the rest of like my classmates. Like I was excited to go to school. And it's like that kind of like started that passion for me. So it's just like that first experience in fourth grade just kind of like was just like a giant snowball effect of just how I felt about school in general. That it's like, you know what? Before this, I thought school was just going to be this one singular thing. But now it's kind of like, no, maybe it can be different. But it's like, it's about people that look like us, sound like us, feel like us, walk like us, talk like us, that make that difference. Because when we enter that classroom, it just brings something that people can't copy, something that like you just can't watch that and just be like, yeah, I can do that too. It's just who we are from the moment you were born. It's just who we are, and we brought that in, and she brought that into that space, and it was just like, like, wow,
Yes, shout out to Black teaching tradition. Shout out to Black teaching pedagogy. Okay, cannot be replicated nor can it be duplicated. They have tried and still have not succeeded. All right, so shout out to y'all for having y'all Black teachers in K-12, because we know in Pennsylvania right now there are some Black children who will go through an entire K through 12 experience and not have not one Black teacher, not one. So I'm glad that that both of you did. But stand up, Black teachers. I would love to hear, what are both of you looking forward to, actually, as future Black educators, because both of you one day will have your very own classroom in the K-12 space. What are y'all looking forward to? Maleah, you first. What are you looking forward to as a future Black educator?
I'm definitely looking forward to just watching kids grow creatively. I think that children's minds are often underestimated. I think that children are very I don't know, they have big, super duper big imaginations. And I think that with the right person behind them, they can create whatever they want to. And I think just like having an art, like a creative space, will give them the opportunity to think outside the box and become things that they never thought they could be before encountering me or encountering any other Black art teacher that is out there. I just think that being in that creative space with somebody that looks like them will open the opportunity for them to develop into whatever they want to be.
Love that. Brother Christian, what are you looking forward to as a future Black educator?
Kids completing the cycle. That I just realized that I'm one part of a giant circle, and it's like me extending the circle even further to close that cycle is just me giving that back to kids. Because it's just like Leah spoke about her grandpa earlier. My grandpa, as well, rest his soul, was a man that just gave back to his community. Was like a camp leader, all those types of things. And it's just like when he passed, a bunch of men came, Black men came to his funeral and were like, your grandfather was a great impact to us. And it was just like, but he wasn't a teacher. He was just a man that loved his wife and his kids, and like in the end of his life was a security guard. But him being able to have that male figure role that so many Black men need, especially, that is just like he helped mold these men, and these men came and they came full cycle. They started their own family. They want to progress. That's what I want to see. I want to see what you bring to the circle. I'm giving you what you need so you can go forward. This isn't a sprint, but a marathon. And it's like, I'm just passing the baton to you in our reality. That is just like, go forth, because like, I can't finish this race on my own. It's about you coming in and helping like finish this and helping finish this race. It's about what you bring into the table, because I'm giving you everything I got. I'm teaching you everything I have. I'm not going to hide anything from you. And it's about you taking all that at a younger age and transforming that into something even greater. So by the time that you get to my age, that you can get something even more transformative to people behind you. Sankofa Bird, it's like I'm moving forward, but I'm always giving back. And it's like that's what it is. I just want to see that. I just want to be able to bear witness and just live in true appreciation of Black people, that I was able to outpour in, that other people were able to outpour in, and just like give and see what we give to this world, you know?
I love that, Brother Christian. So, y'all know here at the Center for Black Educator Development, we are always working to, number one, help young people kind of realize and actualize their actual power, and for people to understand the power and the revolution behind being an actual teacher. Like the keys that you hold being in front of young people and being able to transform the minds of the next generation, man, those some heavy keys to be out here holding for real. But one of our struggles, or one of the nuts that we're trying to crack out here, is how do we recruit more young people to be in the field of education? Just like both of you was just like, it kind of wasn't my thing. Like I ain't really even know till I got to college that this is what I was about to do. Give us some pointers. How do we recruit more young people into the field? I would love to hear you guys' ideas. Christian?
I feel like it just comes from representation. Like us doing what we're doing right now, that is just like we're bringing that exposure. We're just like, we just have to be we can no longer just like be in hiding and like in just like corners of places. We have to be like, even if we're in corners, we have to be shouting from this corner so it reaches the other corner. Because there's somebody in the middle right now that is just not knowing, and it's just like they haven't found it yet. They don't know that they could be utilized in such a way. Someone maybe say, "Oh, I just wanna make music, or I just want to do art, creative things." That can be brought to the space of education and help kids. I love dance, and I have all these other ideas that aren't geared towards education. Education is a catch-all, baby. Like we taking all that, and we're giving it to the people. So it's not about whether or not you feel like your talent is useful or not. It's about whether you want to use this talent for this or not. It's about you objectively thinking, how can you tap in? You just have to think about it, because sometimes we think like, oh, this is not the space for that. Like, music is not a space for, like, not a space for education. It is. Black people have been making music their entire lives since our ancestors, before they were on the ship and everything. When we was back in Africa, this is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we've been doing. And you can bring that to kids. Kids love music. It brings them joy. It brings them happiness. That's one of the main reasons why Harambe works. Like, and if you think that like you don't have the tools to help, that's not true. All tools are welcome, because eventually we're going to need it at some point during this journey. Is what I say. It's like, don't ever think of yourself as lesser, or just like think that you don't have like a hat to throw in the ring. Everybody has something they can provide here, whether you think so or not. Attempt. I just feel like people just need to attempt. Well, Freedom School's coming, change your life.
Make that leap. Yes, make that leap. Come on to Freedom Schools. Sister Maleah, what ideas do you have for us to recruit young people into this field? What can we do?
I think that, again, Brother Christian touched on a lot of things. I think that representation definitely matters. I think that we need to change this, like that kind of, there's kind of like a stereotype in the Black community that Black people shouldn't be teachers, or like being a teacher doesn't bring in income, so it's not worth doing, or something like that. I think that even when I was coming up, I didn't hear a lot of people say that they wanted to be teachers. It was always that, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be something that people, I guess, have, created this kind of idea that there's eternal wealth connected to these occupations, or something like that. I also think that it's about being multidimensional with your scholars. Like Christian said, you could want to be a musical artist all you want. That doesn't mean you can't be an educator. Shameless plug, I'm a rapper.
Yes.
My scholars, if I didn't tell them that, they wouldn't know that you could also be a rapper and an educator. Be multidimensional. Let your scholars know that you are human. You have other passions outside of you being an educator. Let them know that I don't just come to school every day. I have a life after this. Just because you have a life doesn't mean that you can't be an educator. Just because you're an artist, that doesn't mean you can't be an educator. You may want to ride skateboards for the rest of your life. There's an avenue for that in education. Teach kids how to ride skateboards. Like I said earlier, you just have to be able and understand that you can connect your passions to education, because there are other people in this world that also have the same passions as you and don't know what avenue they need to go on.
Maleah, you said you're a rapper. What's your rap name, sis? I'm not gonna make you rap. What's your rap name?
I'm Leah Lee.
Yes, shout out to Leah Lee out here in these streets. Yeah, right, Christian? Yes. He was like, please no. I would not put you on the spot. Like, yeah, bust a freestyle, education.
People do that all the time. But yeah, no, just connect your passions to education, because there's an avenue, like Brother Christian said, there's an avenue for everything in
and
education.
That's word from Leah Lee, y'all. Shout out. Listen, so we are winding down on time. I would love to give y'all the space and opportunity to thank a Black teacher. I know we talked about some of our Black teachers that we've had throughout our K-12 experience, but I'm pretty sure that even if it's them, but I'm pretty sure there's a space that you would want to take and just thank a Black teacher out there. Maleah, I'll go with you first.
I want to thank and give a shout out to Miss Rakia Johnson. That's my dog. And also, shout out to my grandpa, wherever he is. Thank you, Robert Young.
Yes, Leah. Brother Christian.
I would definitely want to give this shout out to my tech teacher, Mr. Boyd. Without him, I wouldn't have known anything about making an email, PowerPoints, Excel, all that. And it's like, I felt so blessed to have the opportunity to just be able to, like, during the pandemic, be able to teach for him in person when his wife had their baby, and just like be able to connect with him once again. And like, I reached him just like, thank you. You know, like, I didn't have no black male teachers before this. And it's just like, you know, you were that guy, like, you were that first person for me. And it really, like, you know, now that I'm kind of like coming into education myself, I think about, like, you know, Boy was that person for me, and I'm gonna be that person for someone else.
I love that. Before we wrap, I have one final question, and I just have to ask this because I have my young people, right? You guys are future educators, but you're my young people on the podcast. And my girl Leah Lee already said she rap, right? But I've always had this like notion like in my head, and this could definitely be a follow-up podcast, too, about hip hop's responsibility to education. I would love to hear about what do you feel like rappers, artists' responsibility is to promoting this notion of why we need black teachers, or promoting the avenue of young people to get into education. Do you feel like if rappers took that on mainstream, that like teaching would become a popular career? What are you guys' thoughts on that? Leah Lee, you want to go first?
Okay, so this may be a unpopular opinion. I think that unfortunately, in the climate that hip hop is in right now, there isn't a space where what do I want to call them? There isn't a space for conscious rap, quote unquote. You know, there isn't a space for conscious rap in mainstream. I think that there it's looked down upon for you to be a nerd or whatever the case may be, for you to be educated, for you to be well articulated inside of mainstream music right now. And unfortunately, there are people out who are not mainstream who are promoting more, I guess you can call it conscious, you can call it um, uplifting, you can call it enriching, whatever you want to call it. They're promoting that kind of rap, and they are speaking a lot of consciousness and a lot of awareness and a lot of things that are better for, I guess, your mind, other than what's going on right now. And they just don't get the recognition that they need. There are a lot of people that are taking that avenue in music that just do not get as much playtime as your average rapper. So I think that it's not even about responsibility. It's just about going with your calling. There is an audience for every rapper out here. The people that need to hear the conscious rap will hear the conscious rap. The people that need the black teacher in the classroom will get the black teacher in the classroom. And I think that's just what it is. It's just about divine timing and divine intervention, and knowing that everything will come full circle at some point, and you will be where you need to be at the time that you need to be, and you will hear what you need to hear at the time that you need to hear it, and it will call to you if it is for you.
Thank you, Sister Maleah. Brother Christian, just some closing thoughts on what you think can hip hop help to bolster careers in education?
I feel like, to just kind of echo what Sister Maleah was saying, it's very true. Like, that's not what the mainstream wants to hear. Sadly, you know, like, that time in our era is just not a thing. That's not something they're going to try to bump on the radio. Like, oh yeah, listen to your teachers, y'all. Like, it's not like people are not going to try to feel that hurt. And it's like, I would love for people to be into it, but it's like, that's sadly just not it. It's just like how people would rather have a black man rapping before they have him singing something these days. Like, you know, it's just like people just have their preferences, you know? And like you said, there's a time and place for everything. And it's just like, people that's going to find it is going to find it. People that don't want to find it will not find it, because it's out there. It's actively out there. You can definitely listen to it. But will people receive it and be like, this is like, I like this? Or is it going to be like you try to put this on somewhere and throw this on the aux, and it's like you at a party somewhere and people going to be like, this is whack. Like, why would you turn this on? Like, people, you know how our people get. Like, people don't got no problem flaming you up real quickly about, oh, why would you throw this on the party? Why would you throw this on the party, bro? That's like you at the club and someone throwing J. Cole. Like you throwing a conscious J. Cole bar, and people are just gonna be like, J. Cole? Where's Drake? Like and things of that nature, and it's just like it's sad. Like I want there to be a bigger lane for it, but it's just like how the world wants things to go, how people's just mindsets are about things because of how the world is manipulating things. It doesn't have a big enough lane. Hopefully, as things digress, we can have that. But right now, that's a real tiny door to be trying to squeeze a lot of people through. I feel like right now.
Got you. Listen, I appreciate both of your thoughts and topics on that. Shout out to Drake out there, Lil Durk, Uzi Vert, Roddy Ricch, all of you guys out there. Hopefully you get a wind of this podcast and hear me when I say we need you to help promote that we need Black teachers. Come on and do a compilation Black teacher video with me. Have a feature with my girl Leah Lee. Yeah, I'm putting out the call to all y'all out there. Make teaching cool, make it popular. But I want to thank you, Brother Christian Aharambe King and Sister Maleah, aka Leah Lee, for joining us today on Building the Black Educator Pipeline podcast. All my supporters out there, we appreciate you. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend and give us a review. But we'll see you here next time. Peace, everybody.